me take off my glasses. Sisters, you're on your own. When it comes to, especially elders, pastors, if they sin, you're on your own. If you're married to a rich guy, you're on your own. If you're married to someone who gives people things, gives people money, gives the fellow elders money, you're on your own. If you're in a church run by men, you're on your own. And I'm not talking only about myself. There's someone in another place who's dealing with the exact same feeling, or no, not even feeling, treatment or mistreatment, or ignoring. I don't know what you would describe it as, but it's another form of continuing the abuse. I've been asked by my children's educational psychologist and also a church brother, well, he's not from my church, who I told about, they've asked, how is the church supporting you? That first time I was asked, I told them, there's been no word, I've heard nothing. There's no, oh my word, how could he do this again? Why isn't he changing? And you forgave him so much. That is a point a friend of mine made. I'll get to her. There was nothing like that. There was no shock, no dismay, no disgust. I mean, seriously, people, a Christian man, leader, self-styled preacher man, going again to a married woman, well, any woman he shouldn't be going to, but going and then talking with her, and the next year he's helping her formulate her divorce agreement, a whole church leader, and there's no disgust, no anger that someone could go that low. There's no, what is wrong with him? None of that. There was no, ye hypocrites. There was no, ye belong to your father, ye are of your father, the devil. There was no, you brood of vipers. None of that. There wasn't even a, you fool with Nabal. None of that. It was just silent, except for the one person who said, it feels like someone has died. Okay, thanks. That's really supportive. I don't know what that actually means, except that you are sad. Oh, my life is over. He's messed up again. And really, that's it. That was it for months, months. I waited days after days, months, months, nothing. No support has ever come. So my friend, who has been to the church many times, and I love the fact that she's like me. My friend is a warrior. She is zealous for truth, zealous for God's honor. She's like me in that sense. Like, remember I told you in my other video how we did the deed and we shouldn't have? I'm that kind of person who is so zealous that I told him to go and report us so that we are punished by the church for sinning in that manner. That's the kind of person I am. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And as my friend said, my friend fell pregnant before she was married, also to an elder, and also nothing happened as well with their church. And her mother asked her, her mother was in a different country, she asked her, what has the church done about this situation of yours? Nothing. And she asked, but why not? And she said, well, I don't know. And her mother told her, a church that loves you will discipline you. If they love you, they will show you how bad, how wrong you are by disciplining you because you knew what you should and shouldn't do. The fact that they're keeping quiet means they want you to just continue going astray, getting lost. They don't care. And that is exactly what my friend said to them. There was silence, right? And I waited and waited and waited. And then I thought, I've just confused you. These are two different people. The one who emailed the elders on my behalf after I received no response is not married, is not a mother. Thank you. She just never wants me to mention her, so I can't call her by name. This is not only about me, as it's not only about me. It's the fact that there are other women in other countries who are going through this same silence. The silence is, or it tells you, we heard you, but we don't care. We don't care that you're living. And the thing is, before this, I'd been for years detailing all the different methods and ways that being abused. I'd been sharing with this particular elder all the ways that it was a life of hypocrisy. I was sharing how there was pride, ego, narcissism. I shared a lot about how bad things were in the hopes that he will help him to see the right way. And instead, he would use him to preach. Okay, then. And I remember the one time, one of the recent times he was there, there was another time when someone asked me if he can do Sabbath school. And I told him no. Spiritually, he's not ready, he's not right to represent God because he's knowingly, willingly doing things that are not what God wants him to do. And he knows are not what God wants him to do. And God does not want hypocrites. So, no, I will not give you his number because it wouldn't be right. I would not be comfortable lying to people because talking for God, look at Isaiah, what did he say? I'm an unclean man with unclean lips. And this one is a real unclean man with unclean lips. Little did I know. So I said, no, I can't give you his number. But he got his number from one of his worshippers, idol worshippers, hero worshippers, who also did know. I'm assuming it's the same elder who gave him the number. And so he did go and present. And the one time my husband went, I told him afterwards, I'm really disappointed in you that you would use him to present knowing what God demands from us as leaders and the people who speak. And he said, yeah, the sermon also said that we should be choosing people to preach and teach who are worthy. And yeah, that's what he said. So, but still, there was silence, silence, silence. And then, as I said, I thought about myself and I knew that there are people, or women all over the world going through this. I looked back in history at another church in another country where she told them, my husband has been beating me. She told them, my husband's having an affair. They did nothing. He was a pastor. They did nothing. Instead, his brother, who was also a pastor, just said, I'll leave it. The church is not there for women. Most churches are not there for women. And I had to tell them. I told them, I emailed them and I said, I hope you get training on how to handle abuse situations because what you've done, I'm like paraphrasing now, what you've done is wrong. You knew I was being abused, you did nothing. You now know, like you know even more than just the abuse and there's still silence. Where is the support for the women who've been hurt? And then I wrote back and I said, and while I'm thinking about it, all these women who've been hurt, here's an example. There was a man whose wife committed adultery, same year as mine. We both found out about our spouses on the same day, 26 September 2016. And this man, his wife, was leaving him. She said, I'm done. I want a divorce. She was the one who had been unfaithful. But then he started talking to me, and because he knew that we were from the same church, so he knew that I was going through the same thing. And he was asking me, so what are you going to do? Are you going to divorce him? You must hurry up and decide, because he wanted to move on with his life and he wanted to build a new family. Sorry, it's just funny. He wanted to build a new family. And he thought I would be the perfect crowning glory to begin anew, as he said. And this time, he said, it was ongoing phone calls. This time, he would not be a wife beater. Huh? And this time he would be faithful because we would both begin with a clean slate. He was a serving elder. He had been beating his wife. He had been beating his wife even when he was elected. People knew this. Firstly, he's got siblings in the church. So clearly those siblings knew. But I hadn't even thought of that yet. I was just thinking, what? Why would I want to tie myself to someone who is a self-confessed wife beater and adulterer? Why would I go from the fire into the frying pan? No, no, there's no hope. There's no hope for you and me. So that was the end of it. We ended it amicably. And he then started pursuing another girl at our church, much younger, young girl. And she started confiding in me because her family, who I also knew, didn't want her to marry him. He had children. He was now divorcing. She's never been married. There was a lot going on, and she was just crying out to me, why won't they let me marry him? Eventually, I said to her one time, maybe they're saving you because he's told me that he's a wife beater and an adulterer. They were saving you. You wouldn't want to marry someone like that. And she said, I thought you knew. So all this time, I'm comforting her. She thought I knew, and supporting her. She thought I knew. I hadn't known, and I wouldn't support you when I know. But most importantly, her next line was, the whole church knew. So this is what I was now telling these elders. This wife knew obviously she knew her husband was beating her and committing adultery. This wife knows that you people knew this, and yet you made him a leader in the church, therefore a preacher in the church. What do you think she thought about our God? What message was she getting? Every time she's sitting there, she's looking at her abuser, and you have encouraged him to act like a wolf in sheep's clothing, because that's what he was. Lambs, sheep do not go beating their wives. They do not commit adultery. Why did you keep quiet? You people are part of the reason she's now gone off center. Of course, left the church. You need to be very strong to be let down by your husband and his whole family and the entire church. And just say, I give up on Christianity completely, because Christianity, there's no reason for Christianity. Christianity is nothing. It means nothing. That's what they told her. Christianity is nothing. An elder can be, and anyone can be an elder, and we don't see you. Besides the fact that we don't see his wrongs, we don't see you, his victim. We don't care about how he is wronging you. We worship him more than we worship the God who made the principles that are meant to guide us regarding how we choose elders, deacons, and ministers and preachers. They didn't reply on any of that. So I said to them, I hope next time there will never be another I said, I hope there'll be never be another time where a woman is harmed further by the leaders. I hope you will go and learn. Ask the pastor for it. Just get help on how to deal with abusive situations, because it was known and nothing was done. And instead he was preaching. I'm talking about my situation now. And then the answer was, oh, well, we have talked to the pastor about the adultery, and we've had nominations going on and blah, blah, blah. And I said to them, I'm not talking about the adultery. I'm talking about the silence when people are being abused. I'm talking about the fact that we're allowing false shepherds to preach. We are choosing them, knowing what they are. They ignored me. They ignored me completely. All three of them did not care. They did not answer. They didn't confess and say, we actually did wrong. We did this woman dirty. Sorry for the accent. They didn't. Silence. So my friend said, what are people doing? I'm now paraphrasing super fast, about the fact that this woman, me, forgave her husband a lot. And instead of being grateful, he has done even worse than what he had been doing all along. What have you people been doing about that? What does that mean? Is it that you worship people, you choose people, you love them based on, and you nominate them and elect them and choose them based on how rich they are, and because they're rich or they're successful in the world's eyes, you will therefore never punish them, never discipline them, never rebuke and correct them? Is your love so like non-existent that you don't love them enough to set them on the right course? Why are women not protected in your church too? Why is it that the women are suffering? I'm shocked that you guys chose an elder who you knew was beating his wife. Why did you do that? How could that be? What is the reason for the fact that you ignored a woman's suffering? and used her husband. No answer again, except some namby-pamby thing, which was basically, I'm going to paraphrase it the way she and I understood it, which was, referring to me now, they totally ignored the other situation. Her husband is lost, and this is so heartbreaking to us that he's lost. And you know, you can't change your heart like the way you girls want to be, all harsh. You can't change his heart like that. We're praying for him. We're so sad that he's lost. That is it. So I said, I see now. And I quoted the paragraph. I said, I'm partly answered. Women do not matter. That is why you wrote this whole paragraph that mentioned nothing, I'm paraphrasing, about the woman in this situation, the one who's been betrayed, the one you people are saying he's lost. Why aren't you calling sin? He used to preach, you must call sin by its right name. You must, call a spade a spade. He's an adulterer. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He goes around leading women astray. And you're telling us, oh, we're so sad he's lost. Come back, baby. Oh, everything will be okay. That's not how you act. I quoted them 3 Timothy, 3 Timothy something. Those first few lines, well, many lines actually. It was a lot of verses. 3 Timothy 2, and it was about how they go around leading women astray. They're lovers of self, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. I highlighted everything that was in this particular man I married to. Lover of pleasure, covetous, boastful. And I said, you yourself, elder, had said that when you spend time with him, when they go have their little drinks, you had to go home and pray afterwards because he was mean to you. And then you're telling me you're praying for him, poor him. How do you think I've lived daily having that meanness thrown at me? Why are you ignoring what the impact is of all these bad, evil acts? He led a woman astray. He continued to lie. He was abusive, and I told them, Abigail was able to call her husband a fool because that is what he was. She was very qualified to know he's a fool because she's his wife. And then I quoted something from one of our founders where she said, well, wives are meant to be respectful, but Nabal did not deserve any respect because he had sinned against God. And so she was commended for her honesty and truthfulness. So I said to them, if she can call her husband a fool and you saw the punishment, he got the same punishment an adulterer used to get, stoning to death. That is how God views foolishness and adultery. But you guys, I can tell now, you worship him more than you worship principle. It's not about principle. And for sure, women do not matter in this church. I see. I've been answered. I know now. And that was it. So that's the answer to the question. How is the church supporting you? They're not. They're supporting the sinner who is purposefully going around leading people astray, giving them thousands and thousands, hundreds and thousands of money. I even asked, is it because he's giving you guys money? Like, what is it that you cannot stand firm and call sin what it is? Evil is evil, period. So that's how my church is supporting me. Like that.